How do you evacuate one of the biggest cities in Canada's north, the capital of Northwest Territories? More than 20,000 people with a massive wildfire bearing down.
Unfortunately, our wildfire situation has taken another turn for the worst, with the fire burning west of Yellowknife now representing a real threat to the city.
It is a huge undertaking, requiring a great deal of coordination of local, territorial, and national resources. The wildfire is within mere kilometers of city limits. It's large, 160,000 hectares. That's a good-sized city, burning and on the move. Yellowknife itself, very remote, only one road south to safety. 36 hours, 22,000 people. So how'd they do it?
There is a possibility that without rain, the fire reaches the outskirts of Yellowknife by the weekend. It is approaching, but there's time to complete the community evacuation.
The mayor of Yellowknife, territorial ministers, emergency officials, since the start of this operation 36 hours ago, they've had one very clear unifying message. The fire isn't here yet. There is no immediate danger. So, this isn't a we gotta go, panicky evacuation. It's calm, orderly, and accounts for everyone.
I want to be clear that the city is not in immediate danger, and there is a safe window for residents to leave the city by road.
News conferences like this help get the word out, but someone like the mayor, Rebecca Alty, is also doing as much media as possible. Local interviews, national ones too.
Can you open a window for us? I mean, as mayor, what are you juggling right this moment?
I am one of the people that will be essential in staying here in Yellowknife to make sure that things are progressing on the ground, all of the defensive work that's happening, and to be able to communicate with residents.
An evacuation of this scale has to be done in phases, and you start with those areas most under threat. So the fire is coming from the southwest, and the first parts of Yellowknife that'll get hit are this, and this. People living in those areas were asked to evacuate Wednesday night. Everyone else was given a longer timeline, leave by Friday noon, which in theory leaves plenty of time if the fire is slated to hit this weekend. Better still if the rain they're expecting can slow it down.
I think everybody on my street is pretty much gone. I see maybe 2 houses down, somebody's still packing. I think I'm one of the last to leave my street.
But they also can't just think of triage by geography. They're also going by need.
We started a phased evacuation yesterday, beginning with people who were in long-term care in Stanton Legacy, then moving on to supported living services clients who were moved this morning.
It is a given. Older, vulnerable people take longer to pull out of a dangerous situation. Evacuation itself is also risky if rushed because they may not be so mobile and may get hurt.
Mentally, I'm exhausted. I think most people are, because it's been terribly worrisome and you can't sleep.
Then it's just a matter of compassion. Helping vulnerable people first may also help to reduce stress as they are evacuated during a time that is generally less intense. More considerations can be made for their comfort. Evacuations are never comfortable, but making it as comfortable as possible for those who need it is absolutely something governments think about. So anyone with medical, mobility, or any other health concerns, they're a priority.
I want to reiterate, the fire is not here. By issuing a community evacuation now, we can implement the evacuation plan while the highway is still open and with plenty of flights to fully evacuate everyone.
Yellowknife has a huge problem when it comes to evacuations. There's only one road out. Or, I should say there are technically 3, but one goes nowhere and the other melts at this time of year. From the downtown core, you could head north up Highway 4, the Ingraham Trail. But after about an hour of driving, you're probably no better off than you were because it's all backcountry. And the only community you can reach is also under an evacuation order. So, you may just as easily be driving into danger than away from it. There's another route, but with the same problem. The Detta Ice Road travels across a section of Great Slave Lake, but to a community where fire is also bearing down, and yes, it's summer, the ice road has melted. So that leaves one way out, Highway 3, up and around the lake, heading west before embarking on the long drive south. It's about 15 hours from Yellowknife to Edmonton.
I want to stress that the road is safe to drive. Please ensure you have enough fuel before leaving.
Fortunately, Yellowknife has an airport, but you can't possibly fly 22,000 people out on such short notice. So this is where triage and coordination come in again. Coordination because Yellowknife has called in reinforcements. Commercial carriers, contractors, even the Royal Canadian Air Force. They've all been tapped to help fly people out of the danger zone.
Air Canada has given us 2 extra flights at 2 and 5:15. We have Canadian North that has a number of are ready to go, and as well the Army has Hercs that they're going to allow us to be using too.
And priority is given to those with health needs that make a 15-hour road trip too difficult or impossible. So they've decided on multiple ways out, but supporting people along the journey is also a huge undertaking.
You have to have consideration of the types of supplies that would be needed for long hours. Again, in those first coming hours and days, you're going to see a whole stream of vehicles. Not like any other day, you're going to run into those situations where a vehicle might break down on the highway. And do you have enough fuel to sustain a waiting game?
You heard the minister earlier reminding people to fuel up for the trip. That's because you could easily drive hours and not see a single gas station. Remember, this is a very remote part of Canada, so the plan is to have at least one tanker set up along the highway, a way for people to gas up if they run out. They've also deployed a fleet of tow trucks in case people get stranded or there are accidents, because keeping traffic flowing is so important when you only have one road to work with. And I should say, this is not exactly the easiest road to travel right now.
For the feast. The honeydew with Brian Sickler. Right.
Conditions will be smoky, and residents should drive with caution and care.
So emergency officials have also planned for pilot drivers to hit the road, kind of like elephants guiding each other, trunk to tail, if visibility becomes an issue. Now, when it comes to flying, support is kind of built in because they're specifically using it as a way of making sure that people get care on the other side of the trip. I'll explain what I mean. So if someone needs close medical attention, imagine how messy it might be to send them packing on a highway hoping they arrive where and when they should. Flying by plane means authorities know exactly when and where and how to link up with that person once they're safely at the destination airport, and that continuum of care is unbroken. The final step of the evacuation is making sure people have a place to actually go, depending on where they're coming from, how they got there, and what their needs are. This all has to be mapped out beforehand. So those traveling from Yellowknife by car, they're directed to different sites across Alberta. If they're traveling by air, they go directly to Calgary.
So there's a lot that's getting done. I'll tell you right now, in the Calgarys, the Edmontons, the Red Deer, been working around the clock, just preparing for the introduction of new people into their community.
But once there, keeping people safe, fed, healthy, informed, that's a whole other logistical challenge. And that's to say nothing of where all of this ultimately leads. You know, eventually, ideally, all of these people have to get back home.
Is there things like a grocery store ready to accept people back home? Is there fuel back in their gas stations? Those normal everyday things that you and I live and rely on are taken out of our own assumptions when we're told we can go back in.
And to some extent, you have to organize the whole exodus again, but in reverse. Meanwhile, the wildfire fight goes on. It is an everyday uphill struggle, with only a relatively small number of essential personnel staying back in Yellowknife, hoping to save as much property as possible.
The main challenge is visibility, smokes, and the winds. If the wind's in our favor, we can do good work, but if the wind turns around and there's too much smoke, it's too dangerous. We can direct the direction of the fire, but we cannot actually stop it all the time.
It is a tough job, but one hopefully made easier when the city's emptied out.